Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of She Plays Games, the podcast where we celebrate women in the video games industry. I'm your host, Lauren, and I've been working as a journalist and content creator in the games industry for the last 10 years. On my show, I have a chat with women of many different roles within the games industry, whether it's journalism, games development, or even streaming. My goal is to give visibility to the many women in video games with hopes to inspire a new generation of women in gaming. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Christina Harper. Tina is an assistant producer at Skyhook Studios, having joined following a successful stint in QA at PlayStation, where she worked on games such as The Last of Us 2 and Days Gone. Throughout the episode, we discuss the various avenues available for people who are looking to enter the gaming industry and why QA deserves much more credit than it often gets. I really hope you enjoy Tina's story, and if you do, please be sure to subscribe and follow me on your chosen platforms. This is episode 35 of She Plays Games. Hey Tina, thank you so much for coming on She Plays Games.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me. This sounds really fun.
Absolutely. It was so great to hear about your story. And before we get to where you are today, I just wanted to say congratulations on your new role as assistant producer at Skyhook Games.
Thank you.
It's really an awesome, an awesome sort of company to work for, because you guys work a lot with outsourcing games, so you guys help games get to where they need to be. It's really, really fascinating. But what was it like to start this new role during the pandemic? Because that must have been really strange.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy because the only time I actually saw everyone in the company was on a Zoom Christmas event thing, and that's when I saw everyone.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so it was kind of weird. But I met a few people over video chat and stuff, which is quite cool. But I settled in quite nicely because everyone was just super nice and very welcoming, and it honestly, after the first week, it felt like I'd been there for years.
Oh, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, you can just talk to anyone and stuff like that. A few teething problems, obviously, we're setting up your accounts and your software and stuff, but that's to be expected when you're not in an office environment where you've got everything. But yeah, it was fairly simple, so it was good.
I guess that is the hard bit, especially with what you do with producing. It's you have to sort of be ad hoc where you're just all right, you need to do this, or I need to just talk to you real quick about that. Do you feel like it sort of changes the role significantly, or do you feel like you can just sort of text people and they're there and you can just talk to them?
Yeah, obviously it's a bit different when people are at home because you can be waiting a little bit for people to reply, just because they've got if you've got children, for example, you need to go attend to them.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Unfortunately.
So yeah. Yeah, so I'm super patient with people waiting on responses and stuff. So, but yeah, it's not bad at all, to be honest. So,
and taking a step back, it's pretty clear that gaming is something that has interested you for a long time, well before landing your first professional role at PlayStation. But I really want to know, was there a particular game or experience that first got you into wanting to be a part of it?
One of the people who actually got me into games is my sister. She doesn't really play games that much anymore, but I remember being really little, and I don't know if my mum knows this. She's probably going to find out if she listens to this now. I used to sneak up into her room past her bedtime, and we'd play Resident Evil.
Oh, cool! That's so cool.
So she'd play it, obviously, and I'd watch and sometimes have a go. But it kind of freaked me out, that game. It was a PlayStation 1 game, so when you look at it now, you're that's not scary. But when you're tiny and you've got Nemesis jumping out every 2
Yeah.
minutes on the screen.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
so
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, I had like a
Um,
similar thing with my brother because he used to play Nemesis and I'd just be so
mhm.
like, how does this big burly man just like, well, creature thingy just come out of nowhere and try to punch you? Like, I just don't like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I think Resident Evil was the one of the first games that I actually played properly. And yeah, it just stemmed from there. Like I just became like really obsessed with video games. And as I was growing up, I realized that I could, study games after leaving school. Like I could go to college and learn about them because we didn't have like any games related things in high school.
Mm.
So once I realized that I could leave high school and go to college and study games, I was like, right, this is definitely what I want to do. Besides what my parents want me to do, this is what I want to do. So I went and studied game design and development for 2 years. And then after the course, I just knew this is what I wanted to do. Like, whether it be in QA, production, I just wanted to make games. So
I know I've like heard a lot about like the different kind of curriculums that games design courses go through. Like, what were some of the things that they sort of taught you with regards to game design? Did you have to like stick to programming, or did you have to just kind of be like really broad?
a lot of the stuff I did was, so I learned how to make 3D models using Autodesk Maya, Blender, ZBrush, a lot of the industry standard software that they use now. So then I had to do 3D modeling, which was quite interesting. A lot of it was concept art as well. And a lot of it was just learning about the industry and the different parts of it. Say, like, you've got localization, you've got QA, you've got production, you've got release management. Just basically like the different departments that you could possibly get into in the industry. That's what I learned about. But yeah, a lot of the time it was mostly like concept art and taking pictures outside to make textures for your models and stuff. So it was really interesting and it was really fun. And we had like a weekly theme thing with our art. So for example, when in October, our tutor would be like, right, this week is Halloween themed. So I want you to draw some like, I don't know, game concepts that are like Halloweeny. So we could go away and draw like, I think I drew like a female character with like a little cat companion, but made her like really spooky.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. Concept art is really fun, and I envy people who can just draw these crazy, just imagine these crazy concepts and just draw them, and then like, yeah, it's just really cool.
I know. You just like wonder like how, like, my brain,
Yeah.
like I can think of things, but it's like I just can't regurgitate them.
I know how to make 3D models, but when I watch my team do it, I'm like, I don't know how you've just done that. So
What
it's
magic
fascinating.
power? What magic power do you have over this?
Yeah, it's
But
crazy.
it's still really like fascinating. And like, did you get to do some like producing type studying as well while you were in your design course?
Unfortunately, not. It wasn't too much focused on. It was more focused on the like just like our coursework, like doing 3D models and stuff to pass, to get like distinction and merits and stuff like that to pass the course. So there wasn't too much insight into the industry. Everything I sort of learned by myself, which is a shame because I wish I'd been told more about like what people actually do in different departments. I didn't learn about like what coders do and stuff like that. I had to go away and learn it myself. So I think it would be really helpful for the college course to have just broken down like, hey, this is quality assurance and this is what quality assurance testers do. This is what producers do. This is what assistant producers do. It's always good to know as well, like the difference between assistant, associate, senior, producer. We didn't learn too much of that, so it would have been really cool to learn the different like levels of the roles and stuff like that.
I wonder if it could be like eventually more official, like how. So I did like a theater degree, like where you could do theater design, or you could do acting, or you could do I forget what the other one was, like stage, maybe it was like stagehand, or you get like a more generic one. Like, I think it would be like really fascinating if well, I don't know if they are actually doing it now with games design programs, but if they could have that sort of tier system so that you could go into a certain avenue.
Yeah, it would tell you more about the skills as well that you need for each.
Exactly. So after obtaining your game design diploma, you worked numerous roles at various retail companies like CEX and Games Direct. Was this basically to just like it's something that can like get myself sort of in the mindset of the industry while you were like sort of searching for the right opportunity?
Kind of, yeah, because both companies that I worked for had some aspect of gaming or game technology in them. CX was like overall things. It was like, you've got a little bit of like movies, film, phone technology, game tech as well. So I learned quite a lot more about games in CX as well, which was really good. But I also learned like, the stuff behind the technology that I didn't know before. Like there's a lot of things in a PlayStation that people might not know about, like different settings and stuff. But because I had to test, consoles like Xbox and the Switch and stuff, I got to find out more about the features as well that was in them, as well as like what games we sold and stuff like that, which was really cool. Same at Games Direct, it was because we were shipping out products and stuff, we'd get a lot of products in and I might not know too much about them. One thing I now know is more about Skylanders because people love Skylanders and Amiibos.
Oh my god, yes.
So like you learn so much about like EMF readers and stuff inside them. You learn more about like what kind of like what platform you need to have for them to run. Like for Disney Infinity, for example, you need like 3.0 for this figure and 1.0 for this figure. So yeah, there was quite a lot of like.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, like Disney Infinity, you could have like, I don't know, if you had Minnie Mouse, she'd work on 1, 2, and 3. But then if you had like, I don't know, Sully from Monsters Inc., he'd only work on 3 or something like that.
Oh.
That's not. I don't think that's accurate, but
no, but it's like that kind of like a similar range, and it's just like you just think like those poor parents, like those poor parents who bought it and they were just like, "This is gonna work," and then it just doesn't.
The best thing was when I was in CX. I remember this because it took me hours to do this. This like little boy came to the counter and he was like, "Hi, can I sell my Skylanders?" And I was thinking, yeah, 1 or 2. I know the names. That's fine. I was like, just put them on the counter because I can't go into bags, so you just need to empty them out for me. And then he empties out about 40 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just sat there like, I know like 5 of them. And I was like, I had to ask him what they were called to get up on the system, like what the names were. And I asked the parent at one point, I was like, do you know what this one is? And she was like, I didn't have a clue. I just want to sell them. Yeah.
No, I know. And you're just like, oh my gosh. I've had to learn so much of Allie's stuff, but I do get fearful of the time period where I will lose the plot and not know. We have to rely so much on the earlier generation for assistance with information. But no, that is really fascinating. Because you wouldn't know unless you actually bought it yourself or explored it yourself. And I think that's probably given you a really broad spectrum of like the industry. 'Cause like, I mean, for me, like games, I have like set ones that I go to, but like when you are in those kind of jobs, having such a big knowledge of like everything, it really probably helps you a lot.
Yeah, especially when someone comes to the till and says, hey, I'm just looking at a game that I can play that's like, really long. I can put a few hours in. And it did actually happen with me with one guy, and I was like, well, do you like Batman? And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, Batman Arkham Knight just come out, and that's a really long game, and there's a load of side missions and stuff. And he was just looking at me like baffled that I was just like reeling off the Batman stuff in the Batman games, and he was like, that sounds good. I'll probably just go for that then. I was like, yay.
Yay, win.
Yeah. But yeah, knowing, like having that knowledge to to say to a customer, like, I can recommend this game or this game or this game was like super handy as well. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
Helps.
because unfortunately, like, bless the poor parents who have to go in and try to figure out our industry, and they have no clue what goes on.
Yeah,
bless them. And then after that, you moved on to QA, and you were actually at PlayStation, and you got to contribute to the success of like Days Gone and Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, what was it like to work on such big IPs, like right off the bat?
When I walked in and after my training, they were like, "You're working on Horizon." I was like,
What?
Really?
Really?
Yeah, that was like, because I worked on the DLC for it. I did a bit of patchwork for the first game, but I was on the DLC from start to finish, which was quite interesting. Just being told I was working with Guerrilla Games, just absolutely, I had no, you don't like think about that when you walk into your job. You just think, oh, I'm gonna work on like, I don't know,
they're gonna start me off small.
Yeah, and then they were just straight up like, here you go. And then after we finished with Horizon, my task lead was like, I want you to go on Days Gone with Bend, and I was like, whoa, Bend Studio, these guys are just as huge as Guerrilla, like, that's insane.
Yeah,
it was totally crazy. The whole initial like, I'm not gonna say excitement wore off, but like, you get excited about it, and then it just becomes your everyday job. So you sort of forget that it's like super exciting.
Yeah.
And it's just like your job now. Whereas if you'd said to someone like, oh, I'm doing this, they'd be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then you'd step back and go, yeah, it is kind of cool. But it just became the norm as well. So it was like, this is just what I do now.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is the thing about the industry, is that like you work so hard to get there, and you're so excited to be able to work there. But once you are there, and you are responsible for such big things, like you see it all the time. You see it every day. And I mean, it's kind of understandable that the aura of happiness, the honeymoon period, goes quite quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you can still be like, when you go home at the end of the day, a lot of time for me, I was like, wow, I'm working on such a cool video game.
Yeah.
But then when you go back to the office, you're just like, right, work I go. Like, back to the grind. Here we go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think it's such a different aspect when you're doing like games for work. Like I find it as well, like with reviewing games. Back when I used to do that, it's like, it's really cool that I'm playing this game, but at the same time, it is work, and you're just kind of like, oh my God, I have so much to do, and this is really killing me right now, and I have to do this and that. Like, it's just, it's like this weird sort of world that I don't think people really prepare you for.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't expect to walk into PlayStation and work on that straight away, so definitely wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, it was really cool, and you get to just build some awesome relationships with the developers that you work with in the studios. Like, it's just insane.
That must be the coolest thing. Like, just honestly, being able to work with everybody.
It's so cool. Like, I absolutely love the people that I worked with in Guerrilla and Bend and stuff like that. They're just amazing people all around. So it was a pleasure to get to work with them.
And then, owing to your fantastic work on both titles, you were actually nominated for a Game Dev Heroes Award. How did you feel when those nominations were revealed?
I was so like shocked. I don't know. I saw the nominations, and I was like, me. Like, I couldn't believe it was my name that was on it. It was just insane. I was just really overwhelmed, and I just didn't know how to say like thank you for the nominations, because like, I really love what I do, and it's crazy to be like sort of like acknowledged for that. Because at the end of the day, it was just my job. Like, I was just getting on with my job. So just having nominations was just absolutely insane. Especially when you're up against some amazing people as well. Like Holly Gordon, for example. She won QA this year, I believe. Just to like have your name up against hers as well. It was just like this is such an honor, like, because I know she's amazing at what she does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You almost have to like, I think you like taking that moment to feel proud of yourself as well. Like, even though you sort of think like this is just like, this is my job. Like it's impressive what you do. And yeah, it is like such a nice acknowledgement to feel proud about what you're doing and to be recognized for it.
I'm super grateful for everyone who nominated me, and I'm so glad that people enjoyed the games that I worked on, because those developers work extremely hard to make the games for everyone. So I'm just super grateful, to be honest.
Aww. But yeah, and in terms of QA, I mean, you're really an advocate for working in QA and QA being seen more by especially the general populace, and how much sort of respect QA deserves. It's a legitimate career in itself with plenty of progression paths included. What do you feel needs to change in order for QA to be seen in a more sort of respectful, positive light, as it is such an essential component to games development?
I think a lot of people don't realize that if you did not have QA staff, you would not have the games that you have today. Because QA are so vital and important. When you've got 100 artists and coders and stuff working to make the game, they might not have time to essentially play through these games and check them and make sure they're able to be released. That's why you have QA staff, and QA staff are 100% game developers. Like, people might argue against that and say that they're not, because they're not really putting any physical input into the game, as in they're not putting models in, for example. But you would not have your games shipped without QA. They are absolutely invaluable, and they deserve so much respect for what they do, because it's not hard. It's not easy to test a game. It's quite hard, because you have to. It's quite tedious as well, because you're going through the same, level, mission, quest over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, imagine playing your favorite game, but you have to play it 5 times a day. You would. I mean, you might enjoy it for the first 2, and then after a while you'd be like, I don't want to have to do this part of the game again because it's really hard or it's boring. But when you're working in QA, you have to do it, because if you don't check something, it could go out onto a live build, and then that's when people start to complain or say this is broken, and you don't want that. So QA just work extremely hard. They're not just sitting at a desk testing games. They're also writing reports, writing emails, trying to help the developers figure out what is wrong, what happened to make this issue happen or this bug happen. Yeah, they don't sit in front of a game all day and test it. They do a lot of other stuff in the background that you might not be aware of. That's why you need to have really good communication skills as well for working in QA, because you are communicating with developers on a regular basis. You're not just sitting there by yourself playing a game.
Just sit here in a corner. You're fine.
Yeah, there's so much that QA do that people don't really understand, and that's why I believe they are developers as well, because they are not just game testing. They are doing so much more than that. So
yeah, and maybe that is the thing. That is the first step is recognizing them as developers, as a part of the team, not just a blanket thanks QA team. It's no, these are very important people who deserve just as much recognition.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's like that. It's like that thing where there's questions that they ask you where it's you could play the worst game in the world once, or you could play your favorite game 10,000 times. And you're just kind of oh my gosh. Yeah. Playing that same game, those levels. I have games that are my favorite games, Uncharted. Uncharted 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's so much fun. But there's this one part with these Yetis that attack you, and I kid you not, I get freaked out by it all the time. And also the last boss, Lazarevich, I can't play. To be forced to do that for my job, I don't know how I would cope with that.
So one of the games I tested a lot and had to play through a lot was The Last of Us 2. And I can't tell you how many times I cried. It doesn't matter what playthrough it was on, whether it was the first one or the 50th. It hit every time.
Oh, bless you.
I had to play that game. It was emotional. And
you
it
probably
never stopped
need like therapy, like games therapy to just be like, you're okay. We got you.
Yeah, but that was like, when you're so invested in these games as well, like it sort of becomes like an emotional attachment as well. But yeah, if someone asked you to play Demon Souls,
oh my god. Yeah.
Over and over again. Once you've platinumed it, you think, right, I'm done. I don't have to do this again. But in QA, when you platinum a game, you can go, hey, right, I've platinumed it. Everything works. The trophies pop up correctly. You've got the correct screenshots for the timing.
Yep.
And then the developers go, cool, well, I need you to play it again, but now I need you to play it on nightmare mode. You'd be like, are you kidding me? And then it's like, we can't have you use any debug tools either. You have to play it naturally. We have to see if this is going to happen in the real world.
Oh my god.
So next time you want to ask if QA bug this.
Yeah.
Think about how many times you played it.
Yeah. And that is the thing. Like, that's the other thing is like, do you feel like as QA, you have to have a certain level of skill in like the games that you're playing as well, like having a like sort of broader understanding of like how a game should play or being able to actually play the games as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of taking initiative and thinking outside the box when it comes to QA. It's not just a case of, right, I'm going to run from A to B and just see if it's blocked, like see if there's any issues along the way that stop me. There's a lot of things that you can do, like people forget that save data is a thing. If you save at like a specific location, sometimes it doesn't always work. So you've got to try and like think outside the box a bit more and be like, if I did this, will this break? And just like, things you don't think of. A lot of the time, the bugs that are usually found can be like in the public because they play the game so much differently as well. So you've also got like, if you look at the way people who aren't testing it play it as well, you can take a lot of like stuff that they've done. For example, if you read like Reddit post and you go, right, this person did this, I can try and do it this way and see if it breaks. There is a lot of skill required, and you just need to be like just think differently when you're testing, because someone might, test it from A to B and you want to be like, no, I'm going to test it from B to A and see if it breaks that way, sort of thing. There's a lot of skill involved in it, and there's a lot of skill with knowing like hardware as well that really helps, because there's so many things you can break.
Yeah. Especially in Bethesda games, like thinking about sort of the QA side of it. Like everybody always complains about how Bethesda games are buggy. And I'm just kind of like, how many hours you would have to sink into that game in order to get all of the bugs out and then not like have one of those bugs being solving one of those bugs, but then it also affecting something else and like finding that something else that it's just affected. Like it's just, I think it's probably just impossible to have a bug-free experience like that. Like absolutely impossible.
One of the things my tessie would tell me, like if we released a game and I saw on the internet or Reddit or Twitter that a bug had been found, even if we did find it or we didn't find it, maybe we should have caught it before it went out. So sometimes I'd be a little bit like, why didn't I not see this, or why did I not think about this? My tessie would always go, in the first hour of that game releasing, they have absolutely exceeded your testing time over the past 2 years.
Wow.
Which is true, because you've got thousands of people playing this game when it's come out.
Yeah.
We might have done 2 years of testing or 3 years of testing, but the thousands of people, all together don't compare to the amount of time that we've spent doing it.
Yeah.
So it was always don't be beat up about it because you've put a lot of time into it. It just so happens that there are thousands of people on this game now.
Yeah. It's like there's no way that you could do the work of 1,000 people yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if they're not testing it and just doing it naturally, it still counts as like, for us, it's still like they are testing the stuff that we have just worked on.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And
that was one of the things he used to say to me to just, remind me that like, it doesn't mean you're a bad QA tester. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It just means there are so many hours that have, exceeded yours. Like you've done everything you can. You've reported every bug that's possible. If someone finds something that you haven't, it's not your fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. So important because I think you could get yourself so beaten up over if with that kind of thing happening. It's like releasing something and then like releasing like a poster or something and there's like a text error on it, but it's just been seen by like millions of people. Like I think Apple just had it with Cherry. Did you hear about this? It was like a Tom Holland film or whatever, and like the poster came out and the title was completely wrong because of some kind of glitch.
No,
so
I
you
didn't see that.
you couldn't even read the title. Like I'm pretty sure it was true, but
goodness.
yeah. But it's that kind of situation where it's just kind of like, you couldn't have predicted that. Nobody could have predicted that happen.
Yeah.
But like you feel like crap because you didn't predict it. But at the end of the day, you're human and you've done the best work that you could do in that situation.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think that's so important, and it's so good that you had that as well.
Yeah, QA aren't robots.
Yeah, exactly.
You're human too.
Yes, we are human. And given your experience with QA and the intense project management required, it feels like the producer path is really like a natural route for people to take. And it's one that you've taken yourself. But I also saw that you just completed a game design certificate at California Institute of Arts. So what motivated you to get that certificate?
So I wanted to like make something like, for example, I made like a little HTML snake game. And I was like, okay, well, I've made a little game, but I want to make something, a bit more interactive, a bit more fun. So I was thinking about making like, a narrative story game where you can like play through it and you have like player traces and stuff. And then I was like, I've never like looked at narrative before, I don't even know where to start with the story, etc. So I had a look online and the California institution do like remote learning courses. So you can go on and I think it's like I paid £40 for the game design course, which involved world design, character design, and narrative and stuff. So there's a few reasons. So I could like, make my own narrative game, which I think would be really fun.
Yeah.
Which I actually started to do because that course really, really helped. And another one was just, I'm quite interested in other departments. So when I did work at Sony, I wasn't always like, I had my head in like other departments as well. I was always like curious to see what they were doing. I know what localization do. I know what release management do. I tried to learn as much as I could, but obviously we didn't have any like narrative people in the studio because Sony is the publisher, not making their games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be interesting for two reasons. I get to learn more about what narrative designers do, which would be really cool. And also world designers as well, because I took that course as well, which was really fun. And also I can now like, write short stories if I wanted. I could write a short game if I wanted. It's just like another skill to add on.
Yeah.
If in the future there was like a junior role for a narrative artist, like starting out, you can apply for that, for example. There was just a few reasons that it really interested me. I'm a big book reader as well, so learning about narrative and how people write stuff, it was just really interesting. So,
yeah, no, it sounds really fascinating. Like, I mean, and for £40, like that's amazing.
There was coursework as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you graded on your coursework as well, which is really interesting. So it was like being at college, but like for narrative stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you actually had to like really work hard to get the grades that you wanted out of the course. But yeah, it's the actual website itself is so handy because it's not just about games. There's so many other like career stuff that you can take courses on. It was well worth the 40 quid because I spent so many hours doing the coursework and having fun, so it was worth it.
I think that is the nice thing about those kind of, about like sort of going back and doing sort of studying as well, is that like you sort of excite that curiosity bug inside of you. And I think that's something that people often forget to do. Like a lot of people will just go to university and just think like, all right, I'm done. You know, I've learned all I can learn. I can read a book now if I want to, but like it's such a different experience when you go back to something, when you actually take the time to like properly learn something. And I mean, like what sort of drew you to California? Because like obviously like a different country. It's really cool though.
It was just when I was looking at websites like Coursera and stuff like that, and there wasn't any courses that were like specifically narrative design on these websites. It was all just like, you know, the basics of game design, stuff like that. But I was thinking to myself, I already know the basics of game design, so you know, I've worked in the industry for like 3 years or whatever now, so I want to try and find something different. And then after like hours of Googling, I finally found the California one, and I was like, okay, well, this sounds a lot more like what I wanted to find.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was just the reason I got attached to that one was just because I saw that there was coursework. You weren't just paying for like one course, you were paying for 5. So I could always choose to do a different part of the course if I wanted as well, which was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's a really good one. So,
but that's so cool how like remote learning can offer you that kind of opportunity, because like in the past you'd just be kind of stuck with whatever you had around you. Okay, well, I'll just have to go here then, you know. That's kind of where I was at with like where I went to uni. It's like, all right, well, like could I be going somewhere where I could learn this a bit better, where I could have better teachers, like maybe, or something that's more fine tuned to what I actually want to learn? Probably, but it's here and I can't really do anything about it. But to be able to do what you want to do and get the kind of education that you want to get, like that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was well worth it. To be honest, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like narrative stuff. I mean, I'm a big narrative buff. I mean, I love a game with a good story, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I love them so much. Like what kind of games would you like to sort of write?
Do you know what? Stuff like Life is Strange.
Yes.
I absolutely adore.
They're so good.
Franchise. Every time it's so like, I'd like to write something that was you know, that you can get like emotionally attached to. Like for example, Joel and Ellie are like, you know, one of the biggest like what would you say? Not couple, but like like
duo, like team.
Yeah, duo. You know, and people are so attached to Ellie and Joel as a duo. And then you've got Max and Chloe as well, who people like absolutely adore. So to write something with like characters that people can, you know, either like relate to or just become emotionally attached to, that's something that's just really cool. Like,
yeah,
because Life is Strange is awesome and you get so attached to the characters in that game. It's unreal.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know. I love that game. Like I get the itch every now and then to replay it because I do love it so much, but I know that I wouldn't have the heart in me to like play it differently to how I played it, because I know like the way I played it was good. Good things happened. And I'm just kind of like, I don't want the bad thing. I don't want the bad side to happen. But like, I just remember being so engrossed in it. And I love I love the fact that there's these games now with very sort of simple gameplay mechanics, but very enriched story. Like it just makes it makes it feel like, and I know it's really cliche, but it makes you feel like you're playing more of a movie or book than you're playing like a traditional, like I just need to have really good skills in order to get through this game. And I really find that like fascinating.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I just like how simple Life is Strange is. Like you just, there's no like, it's not like Sekiro where it's like, stressful, like I've got to kill this, I've got to kill this, got to kill this. It's just, okay, I'm a high school student, I've got this weird power, I'm just going to chill and play through this game. And,
I got a notebook to look through that's really cool.
Yeah, it's just like really chill, and you talk to different characters and stuff and find out a bit about them.
An amazing soundtrack.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
just everything about that game. It's so good.
Is it you who play a lot of the songs?
Yeah.
Youth are amazing band.
Oh,
amazing.
I love them so much. And like my husband actually for Christmas got me the collector's edition because I haven't actually played Life is Strange 2 yet. So I'm really looking forward to it. And but yeah, no, I think anything that Don't come out with at this point, I will just sell my soul to.
Tell me why. I haven't played that yet, but
I haven't played that either, but I really want to.
It looks interesting.
It really does. Again, I will sell my soul to them. But
we'll have to compare if we play it.
Yes, yeah. See how it goes, because it's almost like one of those things. Like one of my all-time favorite games, and I know it's not everybody's favorite game, but like Nier. Have you ever played Nier?
Yes.
The storytelling in that game is so good. The world building in that game. Oh my God! Like I cry so much during that game. And it's only like a little teeny NPC storyline, and I could just bawl my eyes out for ages.
The book's quite emotional as well. If you ever get to read a short story long or a long story short, I think they're called. They're really emotional as well.
Oh my gosh! Like it's just that is like textbook. Like this is how you make yourself like make your people emotionally invested in the characters. And like I know there's a lot of games that do that, but it still feels like there's so few games that do it as successfully as those games do, But oh my gosh, I could talk about it for ages. I'm just like I'm such a huge fan of love it so much. But yeah, I mean, finally, sort of going on to what you're doing now with Skyhook, I feel like a lot of like focus when you sort of talk about games development is always put on like the developers themselves. Like you focus on like what is Square Enix doing themselves, what is Bethesda doing themselves, and not a lot of people think about how companies a lot of times outsource certain aspects of their games because they need the help, they need the assistance. And I think it's really cool what Skyhook does to help essentially developers achieve what they want to achieve in their games, sort of like an unsung hero type of role. As you're working with multiple partners all the time in order to get the job done, is that sort of like what attracted you to the role?
A little bit, yeah, because it's a little bit different. I didn't think too much about outsourcing when I worked at PlayStation because, the studios that I worked with, made their own assets and stuff and, put their own content into the games. So when I read up about Skyhook, I was like, this is interesting. So I've got like a team of artists and they are quite flexible. They can make anything really.
Yeah.
So if a company approached us and said like, hey, I want you to make a dog, I could just go to one of my artists and go, does anyone fancy making a dog? And one of them will say like, yeah, I can do that. That sounds good. I'll do it. So yeah, it's just so cool to be able to like, help these studios. They might not have someone who can do like can make dogs specifically, for example. And that's where we come in, and we're like, we can do it for you, no problem. We can help you out.
We can
cool.
we can handle all of your canine needs for your games.
Yes. Yeah. I am actually allowed to say that we are working on our own IP as well, which is
cool.
Which is really cool. Obviously I can't talk about it, but as aside from, helping other studios, we're doing our own stuff as well, which is really, really, really cool. I have a lot of respect for the team who you can just give them like some concept art or a brief and they can just make it. Like, I have absolutely mad respect for my team. It's insane.
I mean, if anything, that is like such a smart thing to do, because one, you have the network because you already have so many people that you guys help and that you work with. And then two, like there's probably such a diversity in terms of like what kind of assets like that get requested. So the sort of broad understanding of certain types of building and designing, like it's like a what you call it? It's almost like a workshop sort of thing where like your company has such a broad understanding of all these different aspects of designing and developing that you can now utilize into your own IP. That's so smart. That's so smart.
Yeah, it's just really cool. Like, especially with networking as well. We've got so many good connections to like studios like Dovetail Games, for example. Skyhook, I've been working with them for years, and you just build such a trust and a connection with these people as well. And it's just so cool to be able to like be still working with them and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just like such a cool thing, and it's not something I had thought about because, again, you assume that all studios make their own assets and stuff, and it's not sometimes the case. Sometimes they need a little bit of help, or they just need something different. But yeah, that's where we come in, I guess.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think there should be more visibility for those types of studios as well, because it does take a village in order to make games a lot of the times, and it's not anything that should be like looked sort of, because I know like sometimes like with Square Enix when they were going to work with like CyberConnect 2 for like Final Fantasy VII Remake and stuff, people would get worried because they'd be like, why are they outsourcing? Why can't Square Enix handle it themselves? But it's not a bad thing. Like it's a good thing to have, it's a good thing to outsource, and it's a good thing to have such good developers being able to offer help to these really big studios and stuff. But yeah, no, it's so cool, and I so look forward to seeing what Skyhook comes up with next. But yes, thank you so much, Tina, for coming on the show, and it's been really, really amazing to talk to you.
Yeah, it's been so fun to talk to you, to be honest. So I know we've talked like a few times, but just like talking to you like for a long time over voice is just really cool. So thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you. Oh, thank you. That's it for this episode of She Plays Games. Please be sure to follow Tina on Twitter at SpideyCatX. Also, if you want more episodes of She Plays Games, please be sure to subscribe and follow me on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube by searching She Plays Games, and on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at She Plays Podcast. If you want to be on the show or want to nominate someone to come on the show, you can email me at sheplayspodcast@gmail.com. See you guys next time on She Plays Games.